Hey, Dr. Mike, you and I should stay in touch.
Time to let go of what you used to be. Discover who you're meant to be.
In the film version of Morbius that we're bringing to you now, he's also a part of a much larger universe. If you've seen the last Spider-Man No Way Home trailer, you know the multiverse has officially opened. And there's all kinds of opportunities for villains to meet up, thrive, and maybe even nurture their more sinister intents.
Welcome back, everyone. This will be my full Marvel Morbius post-credit scene video. I'll explain what's going on. There were a lot of questions, there were a lot of Easter eggs, and obviously they're trying to tease a bunch of future big spin-off movies. If you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the videos. Careful for spoilers from the Morbius movie if you have not seen it yet, because we'll be talking about everything that happens at the end. They changed the order that a couple things happened during the movie, a couple of Spider-Man Easter eggs. I'll explain why they did that after Spider-Man No Way Home and the reason for the delays. A lot of it has to do with what happened during Spider-Man No Way Home and the Sony people adjusting what happened during Morbius to sort of coincide with what happened during Spider-Man No Way Home. But at the end of the Morbius movie, Matt Smith's hunger villain attacks Martine Bancroft, Morbius' love interest, and she lays dying. He comes to her apologizing for what he's done. He's all remorseful, what he's put her through, and she inadvertently winds up ingesting a drop of his blood. I think everybody saw the direction this was going, so if it wasn't clear, he's not intending to give her his blood, like he wants to get rid of his condition. He's trying to cure his condition, at least presently. It's not totally clear if she was trying to bite his lip to ingest his blood, but she does wind up drinking some of his blood, and that's why at the very end, like after another time jump after Morbius had defeated, seemingly killing hunger, Martine wakes up with the red eyes. Remember, when Morbius transforms into the living vampire, it takes a little while for the transformation to take effect, like it's not an immediate kind of thing. Same basic idea with her transforming into a living vampire. It's meant to be a big comic book Easter egg for Martine in the Morbius and the Spider-Man comics. Another interesting connection to Spider-Man No Way Home too, when all the purple tears in reality show up in Spider-Man No Way Home at the end, and all those versions from the multiverse show up, they're all meant to be classic versions of the Sinister Six characters. One of the multiverse characters that shows up is the six-arm version of Spider-Man. That's the version of Spider-Man that they introduced when they were introducing Morbius in the Spider-Man comics. But in future movies, when Martine comes back, either Morbius sequels, if they wind up doing those, or if she winds up showing up in the Sinister Six movie, when she comes back, she will have the same powers as Morbius. She'll be a living vampire like him, another daywalker. Remember, just like the Spider-Man comics, Morbius is not a traditional vampire, so he can walk during the day and there's no problem, and he doesn't have a lot of the traditional weaknesses that classic vampires do, but he does mention Dracula during the events of the movie, and Dracula is an MCU character. There's rumors that he's actually going to be one of the characters in the Blade movie. The first mid-credit scene is basically a Spider-Man No Way Home scene. They literally copy and pasted some of the special effects from Spider-Man No Way Home, or at least tried to copy them as close as possible. It's implied there is a short time jump later, not a lot of time has gone by, like it's pretty quickly soon after. There's a purple rift in the sky, just like the end of Spider-Man No Way Home, denoting Doctor Strange's second spell, and it's while he's basically reversing the effects of the first spell, sending all the multiverse characters back where they came from. But remember, in the Morbius movie, this is happening over their universe's version of New York City. This also confirms that this takes place after the events of the Venom Let There Be Carnage movie, because earlier in the film, Tyrese's team also references the events of quote-unquote what happened in San Francisco, talking about what happened during the events of Venom Let There Be Carnage. And MCU Vulture shows up inside their universe's version of Rikers prison. So obviously a lot of questions about this. How did it happen this way? The effects of Doctor Strange's spell weren't supposed to work like this. He's wearing the exact same white prison jumpsuit that you saw him in the Spider-Man Homecoming post-credit scene. And he says, I hope the food here is better, like he understands kind of what's happened. I do have some issues with their logic, because why would Doctor Strange's second spell send him away from his original universe if the second spell only was meant to reverse the effects of the first spell, making everyone forget a version of Peter Parker was a version of Spider-Man? Like, why would forgetting about Peter Parker send him to another universe? The first spell acted like a multiverse magnet for people who knew a version of Peter Parker was a version of Spider-Man. It didn't have to be MCU Peter Parker Spider-Man. That's why all the multiverse villains wind up showing up from the Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield movies, because at some point in the timeline of their films, they had learned their Spider-Man was their Peter Parker. So technically, per the logic of the Spider-Man No Way Home movie writers, only the multiverse people from other universes should have been sent away after the second spell happened. But technically, the Sony people are trying to say, hand-waving logic, that a bunch of people could have also been sent away to other universes from the MCU that weren't supposed to be sent away. There's a news broadcast about the prison letting MCU Vulture go because in their universe, in the Venom universe, they had never had a record about any version of Adrian Toomes being arrested, so they make it sound like there is no Adrian Toomes that originally existed there, so there's not two of them or anything like that. In the second post-credit scene, you see Morbius still inside the United States somewhere driving a Porsche, which seems like a product integration, like Porsche probably paid money to have their car in the film. You think he'd be flying using his powers, but he's been contacted by the MCU Vulture, apparently, who shows up to speak to him in this big field, and in the scene, he's wearing his MCU Vulture suit. And a lot of people also had questions about this, like, hold on here, where did the Vulture suit come from? The MCU Vulture suit did not show up in his alternate universe prison cell, so a lot of people are like, how did the suit get there into this universe too? Was it transported along with him, or did he recreate it somehow? My assumption is that Sony is doing more hand-waving logic and saying it's the original Vulture suit from Spider-Man Homecoming, and it was just taken into custody at the original prison that he went to in the MCU, and all of his personal effects got transported to the alternate Venom universe with him when he got transported. And you also have to remember that there was no Battle of New York inside the Venom universe, so there's no version of the Chitauri that invaded Earth, which means that it would have to be the original MCU Vulture suit. Like, his suit contains a bunch of repurposed Chitauri tech that they salvaged. But he says he's been reading up a lot on Morbius recently, he's a big fan of his work, and a bunch of guys like them should team up and take care of Spider-Man, to which Morbius just reacts saying, intriguing, like he's interested to hear more of what the Vulture has to say. It's meant to be a big teaser for two different things. For their team up in the Sinister Six movies that they're setting up, they have planned, and it's meant to confirm that a version of Spider-Man does exist inside the Venom universe currently. The director did confirm this, like, yes, there is a version of Spider-Man inside this universe as we speak, but he wouldn't confirm which version of Spider-Man it was. Tom Holland, Tobey Maguire, or Andrew Garfield. I've done numerous videos about Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield Easter eggs in the original Morbius trailers. There are a couple Easter eggs that they've removed out of the Morbius movie, I think mostly because of the way they changed the events of the film because of what happened during Spider-Man No Way Home. So remember, they delayed the Morbius movie again. It was supposed to come out way earlier in the year, but what happened is that Spider-Man No Way Home was, one, way too popular, like Sony was earning way too much money. So instead of doubling down, they just let it ride, like, okay, everybody loves Spider-Man No Way Home, we'll just leave it in theaters and we'll just delay Morbius till a little bit later. But also what they decided to do was change their post-credit scenes, and the Vulture scenes were originally supposed to happen earlier in the film. There was going to be another Spider-Man Easter egg with Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man suit. The reason why they probably changed that around is because they probably were trying to figure out who was going to be their version of Spider-Man in their universe, and they're still working on that contract. So if they had shown Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man suit in the movie, people would have thought, oh, it's Tobey Maguire, he's the version of Spider-Man in this universe. But I think part of the idea is that they want it to be Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man. But if you remember, I did a video about how during The Amazing Spider-Man 2, they were actually setting up a bunch of Morbius, a bunch of Andrew Garfield, Venom, Symbiote Saga movies, Amazing Spider-Man 3, and a whole Sinister Six franchise. All the stuff that they have planned right now that they're teasing, this upcoming Sinister Six movie, they were going to do that back when Andrew Garfield was still the main version of Spider-Man. So I think they're just circling back around and just saying, hey, why don't we just do a bunch of that stuff just with the modern, current versions that we have going right now. But the Sinister Six movie that they're clearly setting up here will have MCU Vulture on the team, Morbius, probably a version of Venom as well, and they'll have a lot of the other Sinister Six characters that Sony is doing movies for right now. Like right now they're shooting a Kraven movie with Aaron Taylor Johnson and Chameleon. We'll make a bunch of MCU Quicksilver variant jokes when that comes out. Their version of the Daily Bugle is also Tobey Maguire's version. It's the same logo, but it mentions Chameleon. In the Kraven movie, he's going to be his half-brother, just like he is in the comics. The movie's version of the Daily Bugle also mentions Black Cat and Rhino. They'll probably appear in that Sinister Six movie at some point. I think it was pretty clear about them setting that up, and a lot of people just want them to confirm which version of Spider-Man it is now. The main issue that I think people had with this post-credit scene, because a lot of people were upset about it, is MCU Vulture being so anti-Spider-Man all of a sudden, because at the end of Spider-Man Homecoming, he protected Peter Parker's secret identity to the Scorpion, pretending like he didn't know who he was and kind of brushing the Scorpion off. Even if Doctor Strange's second spell made him forget Peter Parker's identity when he was transported, he would still remember a version of Spider-Man saving his life. So that's a little bit more of the hand-wavy logic from Sony, and it sounds like they're trying to say something about his memories of Spider-Man without the memory of Peter Parker's relationship with his daughter makes him now hate Spider-Man for some reason. But if you have any other questions about the Morbius post-credit scene or the Sinister Six movies, just post them in the comments below. I will do a full breakdown and Easter eggs for the entire movie on Saturday at some point, so be sure to enable alerts for my channel so you don't miss that. Congratulations, Jace the Sage, you're the giveaway winner for my last big Marvel video. Please email me on the About page of my channel so I can get your contact details. And everyone click here for my full Marvel Moon Knight Episode 1 video and Easter eggs, and click here for my Moon Knight Episode 2 trailer video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone stay safe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.